Hello everyone and welcome back to Makai-World Reviews. I am the son of Makai, a master of minds and of men. All of February, condensed down into one day. Who would have thought such a thing could happen outside of a mythical realm? Is it a dragon break? Some kind of eldritch magic? No, it was general illness. So here I am to finish up my Mads movie marathon, where I look at movies starring Mads Mikkelsen. This one is actually a misnomer, as he's barely in this, but I didn't know that when I started the review. We finish up on one I've been wanting to watch for a long time, happy to get to, and that is At Eternity's Gate. Let's not lose our ears and get right to the movie. Title of the movie is At Eternity's Gate, directed by Julian Schnabel, an expressionist painter, and that comes out in his films, probably most well known for directing the adaptation of The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, a famous and beautiful film. Though he did support Roman Polanski, I'm not going to get into that, but that's a real shit move, frankly. Written by a collective of people, but the head writer, along with the director, was Jean-Claude Carrière, an obviously French writer who helped write Hard to Be God, a novel and film that I really enjoy. Starring Willem Dafoe, one of my favorite actors of all time. You know him from, well, everything. He was Jesus Christ. He was Count Orlok. He was Norman Bates. He was Pasolini. And he is here as Vincent van Gogh. And Mads Mikkelsen, the man himself. I've talked about him enough that you get the hint, and is charming, handsome in that threatening kind of way, and a great actor. Fortunately, like I mentioned, he's not really in this that much. Like I said, I didn't know that when I started the film. I just looked at the wiki and the IMDb, but he is in it a little bit. Release date for this was November 16th, 2018. I'm using the USA release date for this one. What came out around the same time? Cam. A fairly interesting horror movie about a cam girl getting stalked. I didn't personally really like it all that much, but it was at least interesting. And The Clove Hitch Killer, slow, sometimes extremely slow movie that is semi about the BTK killer. Thought it had a lot of atmosphere, but it's really a one watch, never come back to it ever again kind of movie. As far as the plot goes, I'm not going to give my usual rundown because I'm unable to. This is not a movie about plot. Sure, he paints, he is pained physically and mentally. He loves his friends, his brother. He is tormented by people that don't understand him. He is committed, he slips further into himself. He paints, he is shot, he dies. These are facts, some more historically dubious than others, but that is his life. And I could go over all that in detail in the minute, but it would do no justice to this man, to Vincent van Gogh's life. And this movie is about the end of his life. He was a special soul, so I'm going to talk about a lot of aspects of this film, but the real story is about a man who cared about the world around him. And I'll quote Doctor Who for the remainder of my plot synopsis, so I can talk about how I feel about At Eternity's Gate. This is from the rebooted 5th series. I believe Matt Smith was the Doctor, episode 10. Famous actor Bill Nighy had this to say. Well, big question. But to me, Van Gogh is the finest painter of them all. Certainly the most popular great painter of all time, the most beloved. His command of color, the most magnificent. He transformed the pain of his tormented life into ecstatic beauty. Pain is easy to portray, but to use your passion and pain to portray the ecstasy and joy and magnificence of our world, no one had ever done it before. Perhaps no one ever will again. To my mind, that strange wild man who roamed the fields of Provence was not only the world's greatest artist, but also one of the greatest men who ever lived. I don't know if I agree, but strong statement there. Let's talk about this. As far as the directing goes, I've seen The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. While it is a beautiful and heartbreaking movie, I liked this movie better. This directing feels less like someone moving through scenes and more like some kind of movement through an art installation. Every moment gripped me. Every actor was sincere. It wasn't exactly an action-packed romp. Just some things, some exaggerated, some not quite, about a man who lived and painted, and the pain, the love, the way he saw the world was expressed so clearly. This was masterfully directed. This vision Julian had was all there, laid out in 1 hour and 51 minutes. You could play this, projected on a wall at any art gallery for 24 hours a day, and I guarantee you'd have people sitting there watching it for all 24 of those. He is currently filming at the time of recording a movie about Dante Alighieri, and honestly, I'm excited. I have never read the exact book In the Hand of Dante that the movie is based on, but at this point I don't really care. Bravo, Julian, bravo. Moving over to the cinematography and the like, I had initially expected the shaky cam that this film uses to be nauseating. Sometimes I can tolerate it in films, sometimes I can't. With this, I went in with apprehension, but it worked perfectly. It wasn't every scene. It was used appropriately when Vincent is having a hard time. It's blurry and rapid and is harsh to look at. It gives so much to a scene when it's used correctly. But there are still moments, like when he and his brother are holding each other in a hospital bed. When he's painting, it's still. We see his calmness, not to mention look at all these beautiful wide shots of vistas, of trees, of fields. The essence of nature is beauty, and there is so much to see here. We also get these stark grays and black when he is locked up. We get these blurry yellows when he is unwell. It's just a beautiful film to look at, to experience. It's frantic and hectic and painful, but wondrous and joyous. I could look at the beauty on display here regularly. It's nothing compared to that of life, to go see a tree or a river, which we should all do more regularly. But they do a damn good job of capturing that passion, that beauty. The locations were perfect. Really can't say more than that as far as the cine goes. The story is what it is. It's about the last few years of Van Gogh, and that's fine. Like I said, some of it was exaggerated for the sake of cinema, which is absolutely necessary, like the part about him getting shot. I've read and heard many points of contention about that. They choose this particular story where two guys are fighting with him to steal his art supplies, and they shoot him, and I think that's fine. I don't know that opening up to ambiguity would have actually helped the film or hurt it. Really wasn't all that important. They also have a brewing romance kind of jealousy story between him and Madame Guillot. Guinot, I don't know. Of course, I've never heard that before, so I have no idea. Though the notebook he uses in this is real that she had given him and was discovered in 2016. How amazing, how wonderful he can still give us so much far later than he could have ever imagined, I bet. But really, the story, the concept is about the philosophical ideas on and of his way of painting, of his concept of how to paint, and it's radically different to everyone else around him. The complete and total mental anguish that he experiences, and his ability to see the beauty around him, even through eyes of suffering. It's, yes, about a man breaking down over time, but he rails against it to the best of his ability, of how each and every one of his friendships wither or erode, at least in his mind. There are moments when we don't know if they happen or not, but they are true to Vincent, and that's all the more sad. But really, it doesn't break any new ground with storytelling, but tells the story very effectively, that you understand all of these interpersonal relationships quickly, and the conversations are well written and exceptionally well executed. And as far as the characters go, let's really, I want to talk about Vincent Van Gogh. It's entirely about him, and my God, Willem Dafoe was superb here. He usually is. But you can tell when he's not quite as excited for a role. But for this, he throws himself utterly into it, and it shows. He can go for that timid man-child who has these hopeful eyes, to angry and off-putting, to shattered mentally, unable to even know if what he sees or thinks is true. When you see the wonder in his eyes, when he looks at the sun and lays on the ground and feels the dirt and the earth, it's really inspiring. When he has pain, we all feel it. The most important relationship in this is the one he has with art. That when he paints, it is his. These are not the trees he sees. These are his trees. This is not a person's face. This is his face, the way he sees them. And that is immortal. It is forever. He paints fruit that will wither and die, but by making it something anyone hundreds of years from now can look at. This fruit will never have rotten or gotten eaten or just thrown away. His love for his brother is wonderful. His brother takes care of him the best he is able to, mostly money-wise, monetarily. He can't control Vincent, but he can make him comfortable and let him work, and let him explore the world until he gets in trouble, which he does. I have a question about the yellow. We see his eyes are yellow, and I've heard this before about Vincent. I've read that it was caused by an astigmatism. Is there any confirmation on that? Does astigmatism cause yellowing, to see in yellow, not yellowing of the eyes, not like jaundice? Hence why he was painting in yellow, or is that wild conjecture that's incorrect? I don't know. Perhaps second to Willem is Oscar Isaac as Paul Gauguin, who was a friend of the Van Gogh brothers in real life, and he is compelling. He's more famous, more established, more handsome, more likable. Their conversations in this are illuminating about each man's perception of art and what it means to be an artist. Though even he cannot totally tolerate the nonsense of Vincent. He is, as far as the movie says, the reason Vincent cut his own ear off, because he was taking out a part of his friend who left and he wanted him to have it. I don't know if that's true. I've heard conflicting reports on that as well, but it was an interesting story here. He tries to be a good friend to Vincent even after that, and it's clear he wants his friend to flourish. course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the one scene with Mads Mikkelsen as a priest who was in charge of the asylum Vincent is. It's a tense scene, and he's rather harsh on Vincent, calling his paintings ugly, that is. Asking why God would make him paint such things. They have a terse conversation. They talk about Jesus. Vincent was a pastor's son. About what you were put on earth here for, many things, but in the end, Vincent's odd charm and knowledge wins the priest over. As far as the soundtrack goes, it's marvelous. It goes from the sounds of nature, birds and sound, and people chattering in the background, to these beautiful songs, to these empty, harsh tones and slight buzzing noises of his own madness. I love we were getting this peak, this light song about to hit a crescendo, where Vincent is roaming a field or something, and then it stops dead and abrupt when he is brought back to reality. It was a fairly simple soundtrack, but used so effectively that it enhanced this already poignant film in every way. Overall, if you can't tell, I really loved this. Not as a film, not as cinema, but as an exploration of life, of art, and what is beautiful in our eyes. I'd recommend this to anyone who likes art, especially Van Gogh. But honestly, even if they aren't a big Van Gogh fan or an art fan, I think there is something about the nature of the human spirit in this, how it can go right or wrong, that maybe unexpected people might get something out of it. I think this is an important piece of art. Well, despite him not being in this movie very much, this is the end of my Mads movie marathon. I'm so glad to have taken this journey with you folks, for whoever was there with me. Next March, I'm going to be looking at mockumentaries. And I'm starting with a big one, a doozy. This next week, I'm going to be looking at What We Do in the Shadows. So please like, subscribe. Thank you so much for being you. Don't forget, I'm the only demon who loves you, despite what the others say when they're sitting on your shoulder. And goodbye.